this is a movie that, from what I can tell, was made solely so that Warner Brothers could still kind of hold on to the copyright of the Lord of the Rings. Like,
Yeah,
Oh, is it a
yeah,
fan force
the
stick situation?
yeah. It is. Yeah,
kind of not quite as bad. I would again, it's not a bad movie. It's serviceable, but it kind of achieves nothing. And I like it because it didn't need to expand on the universe of like Tolkien or Lord of the Rings. It didn't need to be a precursor to Peter Jackson's films. But even like as a story on its own, it is a very play by numbers, um, like warring factions, like medieval fantasy movie.
yeah.
Right.
But they also tie it up so well that the main character, in the way they set her up, ensures that she dies out and never leaves a lineage. So
Yeah,
so she
leaves
literally
no impact.
she leaves no impact. I know, obviously she's a great warrior, blah blah blah. But as far as like in the whole world of Tolkien, where it's like lineage and your line goes down, she's finished. Like the whole line is dead. Her
Yeah,
brothers, her dad, everything. That's it. So
the Crown of Rohan went to a cousin of hers, and that's
yep.
So
it.
is it
Yeah,
like a Rogue One situation? Like,
not even
No,
that.
not even
It's
that. No.
just like it is. If this movie, if this movie wasn't set in Middle Earth, nothing about it would change.
Yeah. Like
mm,
it's when you're watching it, like look, don't get me wrong, right? It's not bad. It feels like Shadow of Mordor or Shadow of War, where it's its own kind of
Mm,
thing, and you're like, okay, it doesn't really have that much of an impact, but consequently, because it has no impact, and as I said, like they literally end it and make it very clear that she rides off into the sunset and was never heard from again, and you're like,
yeah,
then
so
then
and
what
that's
the
how
thing,
that happened.
then what
That
was the
thing
yeah,
I've
then
never
what
heard of.
then what was the point? And
yeah.
they start off the movie by saying, and her name was known by nobody, and you're like, then what the hell are we
Here's the thing:
watching?
is I don't because again, I like the Tolkien mythology. I find I'm not like a scholar on it, but I know like the broad strokes of the kind of the lead up in the history to like the War of the Ring.
Mm,
So this being not on my radar, fine. I didn't
yeah.
need this to be like a monumental occasion in Tolkien's history.
No.
What I am disappointed in though is that I wanted this to be a big budget animated movie with that sort of like spectacle, and it doesn't deliver on that. There is no reason for this movie to have been released in theaters.
That's very true.
And
That is
actually, I
damning,
think,
actually. Yeah.
and I think actually does the movie itself a disservice because the animation it's fine. Like animation's hard, I get that. But when you blow it up, but when you blow the quality of the animation in this movie up onto a big screen, the faults in it become glaring.
Well, what's wrong with it? Like,
Like it, no, it's just like it's stilted at times. Like unless a character is right in the foreground, the off-model situation becomes pretty apparent. And like outside of kind of like big action scenes, it kind of does feel a bit unfinished. And the action scenes aren't big and flashy like a lot of I've seen a few anime movies in cinemas, and like when you get a true Sakuga animation movie moment, seeing it in the big screen is really special. This movie has
Mm.
none of that.
No.
And I am drawing the comparison because this is a collaboration with Japanese animation studios.
oh,
No,
I
really?
don't think
no, it
Okay.
is. It's that they market it as such. That this isn't
yeah,
like a Western anime. This is supposed to be a collaboration.
yeah, I don't think it's a collaboration with any particular like animation studio, or at least not one that they're like advertising.
Hmm.
But Warner Brothers Animation worked in collaboration with Japanese animators, and like it has an anime aesthetic. But in comparison to even those peers, it just falls flat. Like it again, not bad. It has it's it has a standard of TV animation
That's
compared to like
exactly what I was saying. Yeah.
movie animation. Yeah.
And look, the thing about it is that's okay. Like I would go and see random collection of anime cold. It's part of an on-running series
Mm.
you do here, and that never looked cheap.
Yeah.
This just looks kind of cheap, but the real galling part of it, and the only bit that I was look, there's one or two really cool parts in it. I will admit, and I didn't feel like I wasted my time or money going to see
Mm.
it. I was annoyed to go see it in 40X because I hate seeing stuff in 40X. But even that wasn't too bad. The only bit there's two bits at the end that really just jarred me. One, when they wrap up and saying, "Well, she went off into the sunset and we never heard from her again, and our line ended." Blah blah
I
blah.
have to go now.
And
My
you're like,
planet needs me.
okay, so we never heard from you again. So what was the point? But the other one was where, and Kev, I think you brought this up before we recorded, so I'm going to yield the floor to you. Can you let everyone know how this movie ends?
Spoilers.
There's no
No,
spoilers. There's no
it's
spoilers.
no spoilers because they literally, again, in an effort to try and tie this all back to the franchise, the reason people went to see this movie, the franchise people like, it's that the main character doesn't quite look at the camera, but almost looks at the camera
Yep.
and says, I've gotten a letter from a friend, a wizard out in the reaches, to ask about, to investigate on why the orcs are looking for all these rings. And his name is Gandalf.
Isn't that how The Hobbit ends? They're like Legolas is like, go find this man Aragorn who lives in
Yeah.
lands. It's like, well, can we not infer that things
No, because
they've
then
already happened?
because then you won't know directly that this is related to Lord of the Rings.
But like, who
No.
cares? We've already
No,
seen.
that's
It's not
it was-
like it's
no.
going to tempt me to come see the next one or something.
no. Dara said before recording, and I think it should have been it. As far like it would have been a punchline, but it would have been perfect. Is if they instead of Gandalf said Radagast.
Yeah, I wished he had have said that because at least it would have been like a deep cut, and the fans would have been like, "Oh, this is great."
It would have been a punchline. I would have.
Go find
Take
those
myself.
two blue wizards that people constantly reference, but we never actually see.
You see,
But no,
that
like
was
it.
Go on.
But no, again, it's not awful. It is a fun movie. There's a really old because again, they have the entire back end of this movie is just a protracted recreation of the Helm's Deep battle.
Okay.
And we find out why it's called Helm's Deep.
Yeah,
Oh, well, then
because-
it's all worth it.
because her dad is a professional wrestler who just beats people up in the snow. That's great, though.
That, to be fair, that is real good.
That's real great.
That's a cool part. It really is. But like, see, the thing of it is, it's like, actually, Kev, I have a question for you. Would you have rather this been like a live action TV show, or do you think this was the only real way to make
Oh, can
it?
I get in on this?
Yeah,
I
okay,
feel-
go on.
I
We'll
feel
open it up. Go on.
I feel like there's a huge missed opportunity here because, like, Star Wars Visions had like 6 or 7 like Japanese studios in its first season, and then international studios. The Boys did a similar thing. Like, what a missed opportunity to have like 7 or 8 Japanese studios all telling like a 10-minute Tolkien story, because that's a universe that desperately needs expanding and diving into, like, you know?
Oh yeah, no, that'd be incredible. Having a bunch of like different, kind of just like international studios, Asian, African, Irish animation
Yeah.
studios, taking those again, like those because there's so many Tolkien short stories. So animating them it would be great. No, this I think in its form it's fine. I don't think again live action wouldn't have benefited and probably would have taken away because you wouldn't have a king quite built like Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah, but the villain
again-
in The Hobbit is basically an animated character, and he's in a live action movie, theoretically.
That's fair. But no, I think again, there was no reason for this to be like a holiday cinema release.
No,
that
no.
I went-
I actually
that I
didn't
went to see
expect
in
it to be a cinema
IMAX.
release. I assumed it'd be a straight to Amazon Prime.
I think the reason they released this and Craven at the same time is so it'll get buried. Honestly.
Well, why
like-
not bury them?
Well, they did. I mean, I was in the cinema for this and for Craven, and it was not even 20% full.
Okay.
Nobody
No, I
went to
think
go
this
see these
thing-
movies.
I think this thing, like Lord of the Rings, is still like a popular brand. I think this thing will draw enough of the crowd to probably make its budget back, and that's it. Because I said it at the top, this movie, because again, it feels cheap and probably was pretty cheap. I don't have a budget in front of me, but I suspect that like this movie was made so Warner Brothers could keep that copyright going. For
Oh,
the
yeah.
stretch.
Absolutely had to. There's no other reason why, and they're probably like, right, we're not going to use our good material. What else have we got? What's cheap? Rohirrim.
Yeah.
There we go. People know Helm's Deep. Let's
People
do
know
that.
how
And,
horses work. That'll do.
and listen, let me